Welcome back. This is chapter 4, The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck. And today I'm going to explain page number 28 to you. So here we go. He packed the wound with the same moss that strewed the beach. After discovering the wound, Sadao treated it, filled the wound with the same moss that remained scattered all along the beach. The man moaned with pain in his stupor, but he did not awaken, though the man cried a little in pain in his stupor, in the unconscious state. There was also some expression of pain on his face, yet he did not come out of his stupor, he didn't come out of the unconscious state. The best thing that we could do would be to put him back in the sea, Sadao said, answering himself. Then Sadao spoke to himself. There were questions coming up in his mind, and he answered to himself, saying that the best thing that they could do under that circumstance was to put him back, was to throw him back into the sea. Now that the bleeding was stopped for the moment, he stood up and dusted the sand from his hands. Now, since the bleeding had stopped, there was no flow of blood from the wound, so he stood up at his place, dusted the sand off his hand. Yes, undoubtedly, that would be best, Hannah said steadily, but she continued to stare down at the motionless man. She too agreed upon that point and said that yes, that would be the best thing to do. But at the same time, she could not remove her eyes, she could not take away her eyes from that unconscious man's face. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested, and if we turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die, Sadao said. Now Sadao remarked further that they could not shelter a white man in their house. If they did so, they would be arrested, they would be taken as that would be taken as a case of treason, and so they would be arrested, and if they handed him over to the police, or then in that case he would certainly die. The kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said, but neither of them moved. They were staring with a curious repulsion upon the inert figure. Now Hannah remarked that the kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, because in either case he would die. If he was turned over to the police, he would again go through tremendous amount of torture and then would die ultimately. And if he was thrown into water, there too there was certain death for him. But at least if he was thrown into the water, he would have a peaceful death. He would not go through torture again. So the kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea. But neither of them moved near the man. There was something upon the inert figure, that is, there was something about that man, that unconscious man was lying there on the beach, or that pushed them away from touching him. That is, they were not able to touch him, or lift him and throw him into the water. There was something about it. What is he? Hannah whispered. Now, Hannah, as they were not able to touch him or say throw him into the water, so she asked, what is he? She wanted to know his real identity. There is something about him that looks American, Sadao said. He took up the battered cap. Yes, there almost gone was the faint lettering, a sailor, he said, from an American warship. He spelled it out, U.S. Navy. The man was a prisoner of war. Now he said there was something about him, certain things. There were impressions that suggest there were evidences that suggested that he was an American, and then to know things for sure, he picked up the cap that fell off his head, and he found it there. It was almost gone. The cap was in wear and tear, badly damaged, and there in indistinct letters written U.S. Navy. That is, it was now confirmed that he was a sailor from American warship and that he was taken as a prisoner of war, that he was taken into custody by the enemy forces, and here obviously the Japanese. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly, and that is why he is wounded. Hannah said here that yes, he was escaped from the custody. She said it very softly, and that's why he was wounded. In the back, Sadao agreed, and that Sadao added a point. He said he was hit at the back. They hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution. Then they looked at each other, and no one was sure to pick him up and throw him into the water. So Hannah this time said with certain resolution, with firmness, "Come, are we able to put him back into the sea?" She asked if they were sure that they could put him back into the sea. "If I am able, are you?" Sadao asked. Then Sadao returned the question and said, if he was able, if she could do it. "No," Hannah said, "but if you can do it alone." Hannah said no. She denied. She said no. She rejected this. She said no, I cannot do this. And rather, she asked him to do it all alone. Sadao hesitated again. Sadao has hesitation. He was not sure. He was not willing to do so. The strange thing is, he said, that if the man were whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. He said the strange thing is that if he had not been wounded, if he had not been shot, he could easily turn him over to the police. He would not hesitate turning him over to the police. "I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy." He said no, I had no sympathy for him. He was his enemy, and all the Americans were his enemy. He emphasized this point. He just said it with conviction. And he is only a common fellow, and that he was an ordinary man. You see how foolish his face is, but since he is wounded, he looked very innocent. He looked very simple at face, and he said that, well, the point is, the problem is that he was wounded. "You also cannot throw him back to the sea," Hannah said. "Then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house." Now, Hannah said, well, we both aren't able to throw him back. We both are not capable of doing this. So there remains only one option, that is to carry him into the house. But the servant Sadao inquired. Now Sadao was not sure if that would be wise, and he asked, what about the servants? What to do about the servants? So this is all for now. Thank you.